we're going to start with the Giants. We're going to start with the Giants and the San Francisco 49ers NFC Championship game. I don't think we all thought we were going to see this for the NFC Championship game. I think we thought we were going to see Packers Saints.
Yep.
Who I think that I know I at least had 1 and 2 in my last power rankings of the year. I think we all had them 1 and 2 in some configuration.
No, you're right. We did.
I think we all did.
We did.
They're history. They are history, and I think we probably had the Patriots at 3. They're still there.
Yeah.
But the Giants were not even in the top 5.
Nope.
Not even in the top 7 or 8.
49ers were in the top 5.
The 49ers were. They absolutely
Baltimore was a constant in that.
So, Tad, start us off with the Giants' offense.
All right, I almost copped out on this. I was going to say Eli against the weather, but I'm not, the weatherman. Maybe I will be one day. Maybe that's my calling. We talked about that today. I might be a weatherman one day. Anyhow, probably not going to be my forte. I'm not going to speculate. They're going to say there's going to be a ton of rain, but we don't know that for sure. That would be a huge factor. But if Eli Manning has time, and we saw this against the Packers, we saw it against Atlanta, he's going to destroy you. Eli is elite. He is. I might have not said it at the beginning of the year, but this guy absolutely is. He's done it in the playoffs. He's done it during the regular season. This guy is awesome right now. With time, of course, no one can cover Cruz and Nix. No one can cover that with time, no matter how good these corners are for San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So that means it's up to David Deal, the left tackle. I'm going to single him out just because he's going against possibly the Defensive Player of the Year this season, Justin Smith. They're going to line him up all over the line, but most of the time he's going to be at the right end, lined up against David Deal at the left tackle. But the whole line's just got to make sure, keep doing what you're doing. Keep Eli up, keep him having time. Of course, this is by far the most fierce pass rush they've faced so far. Atlanta all year didn't get a ton of pressure. Green Bay, they have some pressure from the linebackers from time to time, but, Eli was beating the blitz. 49ers, and they have a great pass rush. I'm going to say David Deal, the left tackle against Justin Smith, is the key matchup for the offense there.
Well, let's talk about this pass rush and about the San Francisco defense.
I think, looking at last week's game is more about their secondary, because if you looked at all the offensive plays that the Saints were running and all the deep balls that Drew Brees wanted to throw, he didn't have them. He was standing around there for about 5 to 7 seconds just waiting. It was amazing how many times he had to check down in that game, or how many other times he had to scramble out of the pocket and hope one of his receivers broke route and got open. That's how strong San Francisco's secondary played. They probably played arguably their best game they've ever played this season, even though Brees threw for 460 yards and 4 touchdowns. Brees had to work even harder to find his open receiver. And I think that's going to be the key this week, because we saw what Eli did against Green Bay is he got whatever he wanted in that passing game. Whatever route, if his first option wasn't there, his second guy was always there. Having that back four in that secondary guarding against the Giants receivers of Nix, Manningham, Cruz, and of course Ballard against this back secondary, and how well they're going to be willing to stop the deep ball.
On the other side of the ball, we talked a bit about Alex Smith earlier. He's playing pretty well. I think we would all agree. What does he have to do?
Well, it's not about Alex Smith, really. Alex Smith really has to fall back into this game manager mode, because what you got to do to offset a great pass rush is run the ball at him, right? You can't. I mean, you're coming at him, you're getting blocked. Your pass rush is best when the guy's dropping back. You want to limit Alex Smith's dropping back. I think he dropped back a lot more. They threw 42 times against New Orleans. Now, they won the game, and, it was in dramatic fashion. And
it's highly irregular for that offense.
Absolutely, you do not want to drop back 42 times against the New York Giants, because that's going to lead to fumbles, that's going to lead to pressures, that's going to lead to interceptions. They ran only 22 times. Frank Gore had 13 carries only. He did make the most of them, especially in the middle of the game. But what you got to do is give Frank Gore more than 13 carries. Kendall Hunter had 6, maybe mix him into the 8-10 range. And then throw in one of those plays like Alex Smith had, like he had that 28-yard run on there. Mix in one of those, because if you remember Alex Smith coming out of the draft, first-round pick out of Utah, he played in Urban Meyer's offense that year, where he ran a lot. He has that, and we kind of got reawakened to what Alex Smith can do with his mobility in that game against the Saints. So don't have him drop back 42 times. Limit it to about 28. Of course, if you fall behind, you're going to have to. But run the ball, offset the strength of the Giants' pass rush.
Eli's been playing amazing lately, but would you say that? But what I'm getting at is here, because I get distracted by. What I'm getting at here is a lot of the focus in this Giants hot streak has been put on the defense.
Yes.
But would you say that this game's going to come down to the secondary, or is it going to come down to the pass rush yet again?
Well, the only way for the pass rush to be effective is if you make Alex Smith throw the ball. And, of course, you have to stop the run first because that's what San Francisco does so well. So I'm going to see how they're going to stack the box here. They're not going to just send 4 guys out there to start. And I know their linebacking core isn't the strongest in the league. So I think the biggest key player on their defense is safety Antrell Roll. Because we saw from his days in Arizona how good he is at run support as well as pass coverage. So you might be seeing him creeping up to the box for a few plays early on in the first quarter to try at least establish some run support. And if Eli can at least get in the end zone maybe against this vaunted defense and get a lead and force Alex Smith to throw, that would really set him up to the Giants' strength. And so that's where Antrell Roll's key is in pass coverage. He's probably the only guy that can guard Vernon Davis, a guy who's big enough to at least match physically and quick enough to match his speed step for step. So I think in all this game, Antrell Roll is the biggest name to keep an eye out for in this Giants defense, and possibly Kenny Phillips too, as backup safety support.
And Antrell Roll's putting his name out there quite a bit right now. He's running his mouth quite a bit.
Yeah.
In this, and he's gonna get what he wants because he wants Vernon Davis right now. Most of his comments have been directed toward Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis saying he prayed that the Giants would win.
Yes.
I think mostly because he wanted a home game.
I think that's what it was too.
However, Antrell Roll taking it. Be careful what you wish for. It'll be interesting to see these two, and maybe Antrell Roll getting in his helmet, getting in his face.
Yeah.
See if there's a lot of talk, extracurricular activities between those two guys.
I think at first glance it would appear to me that this is actually a terrible matchup for San Francisco, because San Francisco has a pretty complete team, a solid defense, maybe the best in the league, clearly the best rushing defense in the league, and they have an offense that can make things happen, except when they're in the red zone. But the biggest problem with San Francisco, if you were to pick one piece of their team, what would it be?
Well, they can't fall behind.
Well, but what I was getting at is
their red zone offense is probably one of the
red zone offense. But as far as the pieces of their team, I think their offensive line,
especially on the right side,
I would say wide receiver probably. Yeah,
maybe
wide receiver. Huge drop off after that.
But I always go back to that Baltimore game. You guys remember the Harbaugh Bowl, right? It was Thanksgiving Day, right? That night, and you saw Haloti Ngata and the rest of those guys just slaughter him. Okay, I think that you guys would probably agree that the Giants maybe have a better pass rush right now than the Baltimore Ravens do.
It's the best in the league.
Yes,
it's the best in the league. If that happens again, the same thing as Thanksgiving, this is just a horrible matchup. I mean, it's attacking. I mean, as far as the things that you can attack, I mean, because you can't really attack on red zone defense, right? Like, you have to make a stand. But as far as what you can attack and really, really game plan for, that pass rush is huge. It wasn't as big against Green Bay because they did a very good job, and they kind of held it in a, I mean, it wasn't a game changer. OC made a big play. Chris Canty made some big plays. But really, the offensive line was able to hold up. But San Francisco's offensive line is classically not good.
At pass blocking mostly, because they run block extremely well.
It's just that right side of the line is
I'm really talking
suspect.
about protection.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to talk about is protection. And the more you pin back Alex Smith, the harder time they're going to have. Especially when you talk about red zone. Yeah. Now, they got into the red zone last time, right? Last week. They were able to find a way to do it. So we'll see what happens. Now, these teams did play in Week 10, right? And San Francisco won that game. But it was a pretty 27-20. It was a pretty close game throughout. You know who was very key? I don't know if you remember in the second half. It was Kendall Hunter. He ran all over them in the second half, including rushing for a touchdown. Otherwise, a kind of evenly played defensive game.
Yeah, as great as the Giants' defense have been, and they've been great. Everyone's talking about how great they've been. Green Bay, you would say, is maybe not a great running team. Right?
No,
they don't run the ball well.
Exactly.
Oh, no, not
all right,
at all.
Green Bay ran for 147 yards at 6.4 yards per carry.
Wasn't that crazy? Grant did what he wanted.
Yeah.
It was strange.
And it's kind of weird how they didn't try to stick with that, with how successful that it is.
I think what it was that they wanted to stop Aaron Rodgers' passing game. It's like, okay, well, you guys aren't that great running team, then run the ball against us. I think it was more of that, try to beat us with your weakest part of your team.
You're
Now-
saying you're wondering why Green Bay didn't stick with the run?
Well, why they didn't want to run a little bit more
They were
when it was
playing
so
from
effective.
behind most
Yeah.
of the time.
Well, after the first, because they kind of went away from it in the first half still, when it was still around that 10-10
Sure.
score.
Sure.
So, and of course they pass better than they do anything else, so maybe that's kind of the thinking of that.
They've got Aaron
Now,
Rodgers.
how do you think Bradshaw and Jacobs do, guys? I'd be interested in thinking
Terribly.
in this game.
I don't think they're going to be able to
Yeah.
run at all.
Let me tell you about the Saints and how they did. This was the 3rd or 4th ranked rushing offense in the league this whole year. The Saints ran the ball only 14 times for 37 yards against San Francisco.
Right.
Right? 63 throws.
Right.
So you're saying, Breeze, you put up 450 yards. San Francisco's the middle of the pack as a pass defense. This team's just abandoned the run. 14 carries only. It's unbelievable. Another thing you want to think about is turnovers. San Francisco forced 38 turnovers during the regular season. Alex Smith has not thrown an interception since Thanksgiving in the Harbaugh.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
They don't make mistakes. I mean, and that's good coaching.
Yeah.
One thing, let's all look for this. There will be, mark my words, and we'll talk about it next week, there will be one crazy Jim Harbaugh play during this game. I don't
Sure.
know what it's going to be, but there always is. Whether it's
Yeah.
the quarterback, I don't even know
Which
what
made
you
me
call
jump
that,
out of
the
my
boot
chair.
Over,
What they call it, and I think whoever was announcing the game, and I don't remember, student body left, which means everybody.
That was Kenny Albert.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Student body left.
Yeah. There's that. He loves fake field goals, fake punts.
Mhm.
Heck,
He
he
does
uses
that
his
stuff all the
defensive
time.
linemen as receivers at times.
Mhm.
He did that all the regular season.
Yeah,
so
he throws to the fullback Bruce Miller quite a bit,
Yeah.
and he goes downfield and makes plays.
he's got a
Kinda
bag
fun.
of tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll look and see which.
Well, I'll tell you
that
what,
is.
he's not scared.
No.
That's one thing that Jim Harbaugh is not. It really seems like not scared of anything.
And they got a home game.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
a home game out of this. It's going to be quite a difference playing
Yeah.
in San Francisco versus Lambeau.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Quite a climate difference. Well, I guess it's time for picks. This is a tough one, right?
Yo, it's extremely.
Adam,
difficult.
you start.
Oh man, all right. I've been flip-flopping this back and forth, and even just while we're going here, because of course San Francisco's at home. They've got probably the best defense I've seen probably since the 02 Bucks. That's how good they are, and they're loaded at every single position, and they're efficient enough on offense to win games. However, you got a guy on the other side, Eli Manning, who most of us laughed at the beginning of the year thinking that he was elite, but we all know you can't spell elite without Eli. So he's obviously established himself among that class, and he's arguably the best road quarterback in football next to Tom Brady.
But is he part of that exclusive list, the Adam Rozwadowski Great Erasers?
I think he's earned his right to be among
Oh,
them. Yes, I think he
all
is.
right.
It's a very exclusive list.
Yeah, it is a very exclusive list. I think Eli has earned his way into the list
the
of great
Adam
erasers.
Rozwadowski Great Erasers.
So who are you picking?
Man.
Because we haven't gotten to that part yet.
Because I'm trying to look at it and see how can San Francisco repeat an offensive performance like they had
I'll go
against the
first.
Saints. All right, Tad, you like the
San
Niners in
Francisco,
this one.
yeah.
Okay,
Let's
well,
say
tell
San
us why.
I think they control the ball. I think it's going to be a rainy day. I think at some point, I think they're going to win the turnover battle. San Francisco is going to. I think their special teams will play a huge role, meaning that the punting will give them good field position. Akers will make some field goals here and there. It's basically when you look at two teams that anyone could win, that they're equal in so many ways that you could see ways both of them winning. I'm going to go with the home team.